The human race had always been curious, daring, and bold. They explored the stars, seeking out new worlds and meeting new species. But there were some things in the universe that should not be explored. There were some things that should remain. Hidden, sealed away in dark corners of space, far from the reach of even the most advanced technology. The beast was one of those things. It had arrived from a far-off star system. A creature unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Massive, with eyes that glowed like molten gold and claws sharper than the most dangerous weapons, it was a force of nature. Its arrival had struck fear into the hearts of those who witnessed it, and the decision was made. The creature would be locked away, sealed in a place where it could never escape. That was where she came in. Her name was Clara, a woman known for her courage and intelligence. She had been selected for the mission because she was strong-willed and capable of handling the most difficult tasks. As a member of the Earth's security force, Clara had been trained for situations just like this. She had faced the toughest challenges and had never backed down. But nothing had prepared her for what she would find in the deepest reaches of the containment facility. Clara stood before the massive door that sealed the beast away. The walls of the chamber were thick, lined with layers of reinforced metal and energy shields. There were security measures in place that no one dared to even test, just to ensure that nothing could escape. "Clara, are you ready?" A voice crackled over her earpiece. It was her commander, a man named Captain Davis, who had overseen the operation. From the start, he trusted her, and Clara appreciated that trust. "I'm ready," Clara replied, her voice steady. "I'm going in." With a few quick commands on the control panel, the door to the chamber slid open with a heavy mechanical groan. Clara stepped inside, her boots making soft, clinking noises against the cold floor. The room was dimly lit, shadows stretching across the massive walls. And there, at the far end of the chamber, was the creature. The beast was lying in the center of the room, its body coiled and still. It looked almost peaceful, but Clara knew better. She had seen the footage of its power, the destruction it had caused before it was captured. Its fur was black as night, its enormous tail twitching in its sleep. Clara swallowed hard, trying not to let her nerves show. "Remember your training?" she whispered to herself, taking slow steps toward the creature. As she moved closer, she felt a strange pull, like something was drawing her in. It was an unnatural feeling, one that made her skin tingle with unease. She could sense the beast's energy even from a distance, like a constant hum in the air. The closer she got, the stronger the pull became. She stopped just a few feet away from the beast. It was still, its breath slow and steady, but Clara could tell it was not asleep. It was waiting, watching. Her heart raced as she reached down to activate the control mechanism on her wrist, which would ensure the beast remained sealed inside the chamber. As her fingers brushed the buttons, the beast's eyes snapped open, glowing brighter than ever. Clara's breath caught in her throat as the creature's gaze locked onto hers. She had expected fear. She had expected anger. Its eyes was something else. There was a deep sadness, as if it knew it would never be free again. Clara could feel the weight of its sorrow, like a heavy presence in the room. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The only sound in the room was the low hum of the containment field. Clara stood still, staring into the creature's golden eyes, her mind racing. What was it trying to tell her? She could feel it. The connection between them, strange and unnatural, but undeniable. Her heart pounded in her chest as she took a step forward, her hand reaching out toward the beast. It made no move to stop her, but the tension in the air thickened. "You're not a monster," she whispered, more to herself than to the beast. "You're just misunderstood." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Clara quickly pulled her hand back, realizing she had spoken aloud. The beast didn't move, but its eyes remained fixed on her, filled with a quiet intensity. "Clara," came the voice in her earpiece again. "Status report. Are you securing the beast?" Clara snapped out of her trance and quickly activated the seal. The containment door slammed shut and the beast was sealed away once more. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted in that brief moment. Something had changed between her and the creature. as Clara made her way back to the exit. She felt the strange pull again, like the beast was calling to her. It was as if it wanted her to understand it, to know it wasn't the terror the humans believed it to be, but the seal was in place. The beast was trapped. For now, Clara had to follow orders. When the door finally closed behind her, Clara took a deep breath and tried to push the feelings aside. She couldn't let them distract her. There were rules. There were protocols. And yet, as she walked down the sterile, metallic corridors of the station, she couldn't help but wonder, what if the beast wasn't the threat everyone thought it was? And more importantly, what if it was calling her for a reason? Days passed after Clara sealed the beast away, but the feeling she had in the containment chamber stayed with her. She couldn't stop thinking about its eyes, the sadness, the quiet intelligence in them. It was unlike any creature she had ever encountered. She had seen footage of the beast before her mission, footage that painted it as a violent and dangerous being. But now, after facing it face to face, Clara wasn't so sure. The days were routine. She checked the security systems, monitored the containment fields, and kept to her duties. But Clara couldn't escape the nagging feeling that something was wrong. She started noticing things that didn't add up. The beast's breathing seemed calmer than before, almost like it was waiting for something. Then, one morning, something strange happened. Clara was reviewing the data logs when a loud bang echoed. Through the hallways, the entire station shook. She jumped up from her seat, her heart pounding. It wasn't the usual vibrations from the station's movement. This was different, more powerful. Her hand instinctively reached for the communication device on her wrist. "Clara, what's going on?" came the voice of Captain Davis, his tone sharp and urgent. "I don't know," Clara replied, her voice steady, despite the unease crawling up her spine. There was a sound, like an explosion. "Stay where you are. We'll investigate," Davis ordered. Clara hesitated, but only for a second. She couldn't stay put. She needed to make sure the beast was still in its cell. There was something inside her urging her to go to the containment area. It was almost like an instinct, a pull that she couldn't explain. Without wasting another moment, Clara rushed down the hall toward the containment chamber. The lights flickered overhead as she ran, her footsteps echoing in the silence of the empty station. The beast's presence seemed to grow stronger with every step she took, as if it were waiting for her, calling out to her in a way she couldn't comprehend. When she reached the sealed door, she found that it was slightly ajar, the security field flickering erratically. Clara's heart raced, and a cold sweat formed on the back of her neck. She quickly activated the control panel and brought the door open fully. What she saw inside took her breath away. The beast was no longer lying in its usual spot. Instead, it was standing, its massive form silhouetted in the dim light. Clara's shock, it wasn't alone. A soft, almost unearthly hum filled the air. And there, in the center of the room, was the beast cradling something. Clara's eyes widened as she realized what it was. A small, alien creature, no bigger than a child with soft blue skin and delicate wings. The creature seemed completely at peace, its eyes closed in what looked like sleep, resting comfortably in the beast's massive arms. The sight was both surreal and beautiful. Clara stood frozen at the entrance, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. The creature, this fearsome beast, this so-called monster, was holding the small alien with the gentleness of a mother cradling her child. The creature's eyes met Clara's, and for the first time, they were not filled with anger or fear. They were filled with something else, something far deeper. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she slowly took a step forward. She felt drawn to the scene, as if some invisible force was pushing her closer. The beast's eyes never left hers, its golden gaze steady and unblinking. How? Clara whispered to herself. She couldn't understand how this could be possible. Everything she had been told about this creature, everything she had learned, seemed to fall apart in that moment. The beast wasn't a mindless killer. It wasn't just a monster. The small alien stirred in the beast's arms, its tiny hands reaching out for Clara as if it could sense her presence. A strange feeling of warmth spread through Clara's chest, and she found herself taking another step forward. Mesmerized by the gentle scene before her, the hum in the air seemed to intensify as she moved closer. And for the first time, Clara noticed something else. It was a connection between the beast and the small alien. Clara couldn't explain it, but she could feel it. It's like a bond that tied them together. Before she could take another step, the voice of Captain Davis crackled through her earpiece, breaking the silence. "Clara, what's going on? Report now." Clara hesitated, looking at the beast one last time. The creature slowly shifted its gaze from her to the control panel on the wall. It was almost as if it understood what she was doing. "I don't know how to explain it," Clara finally responded, her voice quiet, almost uncertain. "The beast. It's holding something. It's not attacking. It's protecting it." Captain Davis's voice was sharp with confusion. "Clara, what are you talking about? Is it still a threat?" Clara glanced back at the beast. Its eyes were full of something that could only be described as sadness, as if it knew that the moment of peace would not last. "No," Clara said, her voice steady, but with a hint of hesitation. "It's not a threat. It's just ... not what we thought it was." There was a long pause on the other end of the line before Captain Davis responded. "Clara, you need to get back now." She couldn't. Something deep inside her knew that this wasn't just about the beast. It was about something much bigger. Something the human race wasn't ready to understand. For the first time since her mission began, Clara felt a strange sense of peace, like she had found something that no one else could see. Something that had been hidden for far too long. She knew that the truth was out there, waiting to be discovered. And somehow, she felt like she was the one meant to uncover it. The days after the discovery were strange and unsettling for Clara. She had spent years training to follow orders, to maintain control over the dangerous creatures that the human race feared. But now, she found herself questioning everything she thought she knew. The beast wasn't a mindless monster. It had shown her something in that chamber, tenderness, a side of it that the humans never thought to see. Clara couldn't ignore it. She couldn't pretend that what she had witnessed was just a mistake or a fluke. There was a deeper connection between the beast and the small alien it cradled, and Clara had no idea how far that connection stretched. The more she thought about it, the more she realized she couldn't let the beast remain locked away. It didn't belong in that cage. Deserved to be free. But there was one problem. If she helped the beast escape, the consequences would be unimaginable. She sat in her small, sterile room, her mind racing. Clara's hands trembled as she picked up the small datapad in front of her. She had read the mission files, the orders to ensure the creature never left its containment. But she couldn't reconcile what she had seen with the mission. The beast wasn't the danger they thought it was. It was more than just a creature. It was a being with its own heart, its own emotions. Clara stood up, pacing around her room. The weight of the decision was heavy on her shoulders. If she chose to help the beast, she would be risking everything. Her career, her reputation, maybe even her life. But the more she thought about it, the more she knew that she couldn't turn her back on what she had witnessed. She had seen a side of the creature that no one else had, and that made her responsible for it. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Beyond the station, the universe stretched out, vast and unknown. Clara had always believed in the human mission to explore and protect. But now, she wasn't sure anymore. The universe was full of mysteries, and not all of them were as simple as good and evil. Sometimes, things weren't what they seemed. Clara's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps outside her door. She quickly hid the datapad and moved toward the door. It opened to reveal Lieutenant Carter, one of her fellow officers. "Clara," he said, his voice tense. "We've received new orders. The Council is aware of the situation with the beast, coming to inspect the containment zone." Clara's heart skipped a beat. The Council. Damned. If they came to inspect the creature, they would see the damage. To the containment field. They would know something was wrong. "When are they arriving?" she asked, trying to sound calm. "Within the next few hours," Carter replied. We need to be prepared. Clara nodded, her mind already racing. If the council found out about the breach in security, they would never believe her side of the story. They would only see failure, a threat that needed to be eliminated. The beast would be destroyed, and Clara would be locked away for helping. She didn't have much time. I'll get ready, Clara said quickly, trying to push her rising panic down. I'll make sure everything is in order. Carter gave her a questioning look, but didn't press. He'd left her room, and Clara immediately began formulating her plan. She had to act fast before the council arrived. The beast's life was on the line, and so was hers. The hours that followed felt like a blur. Clara moved with purpose, her mind focused on only one thing: freeing the beast. She gathered the tools she would need: her access code, the override security keys, and a small portable communication device. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. She slipped out of her room and made her way toward the containment zone. The station was eerily quiet, and Clara's footsteps echoed in the empty hallways. As she approached the sealed door, she could feel her heart pounding in her chest. This was it. There was no turning back now. She stopped in front of the control panel, her fingers shaking as she entered the override code. The door to the containment chamber flickered to life, the security field turning off with a soft hiss. Lara took a deep breath and stepped inside, her eyes immediately searching for the beast. The creature was still there. It's lying on the cold floor, its massive form barely moving. But as Clara moved closer, it slowly raised its head. Its golden eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, neither of them moved. The air between them seemed to crackle with the weight of their shared understanding. Clara knelt down, reaching out. "A hand. I won't let them keep you locked up," she whispered, her voice soft but filled with determination. The beast watched her for a moment, and then, with surprising gentleness, it lowered its head toward her hand. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she touched the soft fur of its massive head. She could feel the power beneath its skin, but also something else, something vulnerable, something that trusted her. Clara stood up and quickly worked too. Disable the remaining security measures. It only took a few seconds, but to Clara, it felt like an eternity. The door to the chamber slowly slid open, and the beast stood up, stretching its powerful limbs. It moved cautiously, its eyes still on Clara, as if waiting for her approval. "We're going," Clara said, her voice barely above a whisper. With one final look at the creature, she stepped back and motioned for it to follow. The beast moved, with surprising quietness, its massive body gliding effortlessly through the open door. Clara glanced over her shoulder one last time, knowing that there was no turning back now. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if they would survive the escape or if she would be caught. But one thing was certain: she couldn't leave the beast behind. It deserved to be free, and Clara was the only one who could give it that freedom. As they moved deeper into the station, Clara's heart raced, knowing that the clock was ticking. The council was coming, and with them, the fate of the beast and her own hung in the balance. Clara's heart pounded as she led the beast through the narrow corridors of the station. She could feel its massive presence behind her. It's moving with surprising quietness, but there was no mistaking the power it held. It was free now, free from the cage that had held it for so long, but that freedom came with a price. The council would not be pleased, and Clara knew they were on their way as she turned another corner. She saw the security team moving through the station. They were heading toward the containment zone, unaware of the breach. Clara quickly ducked into a side passage, pulling the beast into the shadows with her. The last thing she needed was to be seen by anyone, especially now. The beast crouched beside her, its golden eyes watching her with a strange understanding. It seemed to sense the danger, but Clara knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. The council was coming. It would search every corner of the station until they found the creature, and once they did, it would be over. We'd have to move. Clara whispered to the beast, her voice low. She couldn't help but feel a bond with it now, something that went beyond just saving its life. It wasn't just a creature she was protecting. It was a life, a being that had been misunderstood and locked away. She glanced down the hall, waiting for the moment when the guards would pass. When the coast was clear, she and the beast would Move again. Clara couldn't afford any mistakes. The minutes stretched on, each one feeling longer than the last. Clara could hear the distant sounds of footsteps echoing through the station, soft hum of machinery, the faint voices of officers. On patrol, the tension in the air was thick, and every sound made her jump. It was like they were being hunted. Clara was the one leading the beast straight into the trap. Finally, sounds faded as the security team moved farther down the hall. Clara gave a quiet sigh of relief. It was now or never. She motioned for the beast to follow, and together they moved swiftly down the corridor, their footsteps barely a whisper on the floor. Claire's mind raced, trying to plan their next move. She had to get the beast to the docking bay, where an old escape pod was waiting. It wasn't much, but it was their only chance. The further they went, the more Clara felt the weight of her decision. She had never imagined it would come to this. The beast, a creature the humans feared, was now her responsibility. The council was on its way to destroy it. Clara knew that if they didn't act quickly, they would both be captured or, worse, the beast would be killed. As they reached the docking bay, Clara's eyes scanned the room. The small, aging escape pod was tucked in the corner, hidden behind crates and storage containers. It looked insignificant, almost outdated, but it was all they had. She hurried toward it, motioning for the beast to follow, just as Clara approached. The pod, her earpiece crackled to life. "Clara, this is Captain Davis," came the voice over the comm. "We've detected a breach in the containment area. You need to return immediately. The council is on their way." Clara froze her blood. Running cold. The council. They were coming faster than she had expected. I can't," Clara said, her voice trembling slightly despite her efforts to stay calm. "The beast is not the threat. It's been misunderstood. It's not what you think." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Clara, you need to return now. The council will deal with this. They'll take care of the situation." "I can't," Clara repeated, her voice firm now. "You don't understand. The beast is not a threat. It's a being that has been locked away for far too long. It deserves to be free." "Clara, this is an order." Captain Davis's voice was sharp, but there was an edge of concern in it. "You're not thinking clearly. The council won't listen to your explanation. They'll do what needs to be done." Clara's grip tightened on the comm device. "I'm sorry, Captain. I can't follow that order. I won't let them kill. I'm taking it both of us off the station." She cut the comm, silencing Captain Davis's voice. She couldn't afford any distractions now. The council was on its way. There was no time left for explanations. Clara opened the hatch of the escape pod and quickly stepped inside. The beast hesitated at the doorway, its golden eyes searching her face as if asking if it was truly free. "Now?" Clara smiled softly, nodding. "Yes," she whispered. "It's your chance. Your freedom." The beast stepped into the pod, its massive form filling up the small space. Clara quickly sealed the hatch behind them, her fingers working quickly on the controls. The pod's engines powered up with a soft hum, and Clara's heart raced as she navigated it away from the station. They were escaping. But just as the pod started to move, a warning light blinked on the control panel. "Alert. Station lock engaged." Clara's blood ran cold as she realized what was happening. The station's defense systems had been activated, and the escape pod was being locked into place. "No," Clara muttered, her fingers flying over the controls, trying to override the system.
Oh.
The lights flickered as the pod systems fought against her, sound of the station's engines booming through the walls. The escape was slipping through her fingers. The escape pod hummed as it drifted away from the station, but Clara's mind was far from peaceful. The flashing red lights on the control panel signaled that the station's defense systems were still engaged. Her heart pounded, knowing they only had moments before they were trapped again. She pressed her hands against the controls, frantically entering commands, but the pod refused to move. The station's grip was tight, locking them into place. She looked over at the beast, its massive eyes glowing softly in the dim light of the pod. It was still, watching her with an intensity she couldn't fully understand. It seemed calm despite the situation, as if it knew that there was a way out. "Come on," Clara whispered, her voice shaking. "Please work." The air inside the pod was heavy, thick with the sense of impending danger. Clara could hear the deep, steady breathing of the beast behind her, its massive form taking up most of the space. She had never imagined that she would find herself in this position, facing the consequences of helping a creature that the entire human race feared. But she couldn't go back now. There was no turning back. Then, as if responding to her thoughts, the beast moved. It shifted slowly, its great head lowering toward Clara, its eyes focused on the control panel. Clara froze, her heart racing. She wasn't sure what the creature was doing, but it felt like it was communicating with her in some strange way. It's just like before, she thought. The connection, something more to this creature than anyone realized. The beast let out a low, rumbling growl, and then, to Clara's shock, it pressed its clawed paw against the control panel. The force of its touch sent a ripple of energy through the pod. For a brief moment, Clara feared the whole thing might collapse under the pressure. But then, the lights on the panel flickered, and the grip of the station's lock seemed to loosen. Clara's breath caught in her throat as the pod slowly began to move again, easing away from the station's grasp. "We're free," Clara whispered in disbelief, her fingers still hovering over the controls. But even though the pod was moving, she knew the escape wasn't over. The council was still out there, and the station's systems would be searching for them. They wouldn't stop until they found the beast and returned it to captivity. "Stay with me," Clara said quietly, turning to look at the creature. "We've made it this far. We can't stop now." For a moment, the beast seemed to understand her words, tilted its head slightly, its golden eyes meeting hers, full of trust and something deeper, perhaps even gratitude. It was as if, in that moment, the two of them were connected not just by their shared escape, but by something more profound. Clara focused on the controls. Her hands steady now, the panic from moments ago slowly fading. The pod was moving faster now, the stars outside growing clearer as they left the station behind. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before them, a reminder of how small they were in the grand scheme of the universe. But in that moment, Clara didn't feel small. She felt powerful, determined. She had made a choice that had cost her everything. But it was a choice she would stand by. As the pod accelerated, Clara felt the weight of what she had done settling in. She had helped a creature, a being that had been cast aside, locked away and feared by all. The world outside had seen the beast as a threat, but Clara had seen something different. She had seen the quiet intelligence, the untold story behind the creature's eyes. She had seen a protector, not a monster. And now, as they floated in the endless darkness of space, she knew there was no going back. They had to move forward. The universe was vast, and there were no guarantees. But she couldn't let the creature be locked away again, not after everything it had shown her. The pod continued to glide through the dark void. Clara focused on the path ahead. The creature sat silently beside her, the hum of its breathing the only sound in the small, cramped space. Clara's mind raced with questions. Where would they go? What would they do? She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing. For sure, she couldn't let the beast be a prisoner again. "We need to find a safe place," Clara murmured. "Somewhere no one can find us." The beast shifted beside her, as if understanding her words. For a moment, Clara thought she saw a glimmer of something in its eyes, something that spoke of hope. It was strange to think that a creature so feared by everyone could be a symbol of hope, but that was what Clara saw. As the minutes passed, Clara looked out at the stars, the vastness of space swallowing them whole. She didn't know where they were headed. She didn't know how long they could stay hidden. But one thing was certain, the beast would not be caged again. Her fingers danced over the controls again, and the pod began to make a slow turn, moving farther into uncharted space. Clara didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of peace. The beast was free, and so was she. They were no longer bound by the rules and fears of the past. As the pod traveled deeper into the unknown, Clara knew that their journey had just begun. They were going to find a new place, one where they could both live freely, without the shadow of fear hanging over them. The creature might have been locked away by others, but with Clara, it would never be imprisoned again. The escape pod floated deeper into the cold expanse of space, the small craft now a tiny speck against the vastness of the stars. Clara sat at the controls, her fingers still shaking from the tension of their narrow escape. Beside her, the beast sat quietly, its massive form filling much of the pod. But its presence was no longer the terrifying thing it had once been to her. It had become something else, something she couldn't name, but something she was starting to understand. The calm outside matched the calm within her, a deep, quiet determination that filled her as she looked ahead. They had made it out of the station, but they were far from safe. The Council would be looking for them, and the forces of Earth's military would stop at nothing to find the creature. Clara knew it was only a matter of time before they were caught again. She had no plan, no clear idea of where they could go. But she was determined to find a way to keep the beast safe, to keep it free. "We need to move faster," Clara murmured, her voice barely a whisper as she glanced at the control panel. The pod systems were working, but the remaining fuel was running low. It couldn't keep drifting forever. The beast stirred beside her, its golden eyes turning to her. Clara felt a wave of understanding pass between them. The creature wasn't just a beast, it was intelligent, could sense the danger, feel the urgency in the air, just as she did. Clara felt a strange, unspoken connection with it, like it had become part of her, and she, a part of it. "We're running out of time," she whispered to herself. Just then, the pod's communication system beeped to life, and Clara's heart jumped into her throat. She had been dreading this moment. She opened the channel, and Captain Davis's voice crackled through. "Clara, this is Captain Davis. We know you're out there. You need to return immediately. The Council has ordered us to bring the creature back, and if you do not comply, there will be consequences." Clara's grip tightened on the controls. She had expected this, but hearing Davis's voice still sent a chill down her spine. He wasn't just giving an order anymore. There was a sense of finality in his tone. The Council wasn't going to stop until they had the creature. "I can't come back," Clara said quietly, her voice calm but firm. "I can't let you lock it up again. It doesn't deserve that." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line before Davis spoke again, this time more forcefully. "Clara, you're putting everyone at risk. If you don't come back now, we will be forced to track you down. You can't hide forever. You're not the only one involved in this." Clara's heart twisted, but she stood her ground. "I won't go back. I can't. I've seen what the creature really is. You don't understand." The voice on the other end went cold. "Then you leave us no choice." Before Clara could respond, the communication line cut off, leaving only the quiet hum of the pod systems. The finality of the captain's words lingered in the air, a heavy reminder that they weren't for naught yet. But as Clara looked out at the stars, she knew there was no turning back now. She had made her choice. She had chosen to protect the beast, and she would see it through. She looked over at the creature beside her. It seemed to sense her thoughts, its massive head lowering to her level, its golden eyes full of silent understanding. "I'll never let them take you back," Clara said softly. "We'll find somewhere safe, somewhere they can't reach us." The beast made a soft sound, almost like a purr, and Clara smiled. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind her that they weren't alone. They had each other. Suddenly the pod's alert system flashed red. Clara's heart sank as she saw the warning. "Incoming ship detected." The Council was already on their trail. They had found them. "Damn it," Clara muttered under her breath. She had hoped they'd have more time. They weren't ready for a fight, but it seemed there was no avoiding it now. The pod's engines roared as Clara pushed the throttle forward, trying to gain speed, but the incoming ship was fast. Too fast. It didn't take long for the enemy ship to close in. Clara could see its sleek, menacing shape in the distance, a symbol of the power of the Council. The ship's weapon systems locked onto them, and Clara's heart raced. They were outnumbered and outgunned. But there was no way she was going to let the beast be captured again. The enemy ship's voice crackled through the comms. "Clara, stop this now. There's no place to hide. Surrender the creature and return to the station. This is your final warning." Clara's hands tightened around the controls, her pulse pounding in her ears. She glanced at the beast, feeling the weight of the decision before her. She couldn't let it go back. She couldn't. "We're not going back," Clara said firmly, her voice shaking with fear, but also filled with resolve. "I will fight for its freedom." The enemy ship fired a warning shot, and Clara's pod shuddered under the blast. She quickly adjusted the controls, trying to dodge the next wave of fire. The beast, as if sensing the danger, growled low in its chest, its eyes glowing brighter. It was ready to protect. Clara's hands flew over the controls as the battle began. The pod was small, agile, but vulnerable. Clara did her best to outmaneuver the larger ship, weaving through the stars, taking sharp turns and sudden stops. Council's ship fired again, but Clara was faster this time, narrowly avoiding the shot. "We can do this," she muttered to herself. Focusing on the ship behind them, the battle raged on, each move feeling like it could be their last. But Clara wasn't about to give up. She wouldn't let the beast be taken back into the darkness. Not after everything they had gone through. Not after everything she had learned. With a final burst of speed, Clara executed a sharp turn, sending the pod careening into the asteroid belt nearby. The larger enemy ship couldn't follow. Its size and weapon systems weren't built for this kind of close maneuvering. Clara's heart raced as she finally lost the ship in the maze of rocks, breathing a sigh of relief. For now, they were safe. But Clara knew this wasn't over. The Council would come after them again. But next time, they would be ready.